The Ghost of Sarah Bassett, the Black Witch. In the annals of Caribbean history, where the echoes of slavery are still felt today, some stories transcend time, transforming from historical record into powerful folklore. The story of Sarah Bassett, an enslaved African woman in the 18th century Bermuda, is one such tale. It is a story not just of brutal punishment, but of alleged supernatural power, defiance, and a legacy so potent that her name is still invoked and a statue erected in her memory. While precise details from the 1700s are often sparse, the historical record and subsequent legend paint a compelling portrait of a woman who refused to be broken. Unlike many enslaved persons, Sarah Bassett's exact date of birth is unknown. What we do know is that she lived and died in Bermuda during the early 1730s. Her place of birth was almost certainly Bermuda itself, as she is recorded as being a slave born in this country. She was owned by a wealthy and prominent Bermudian couple, Francis and Sarah Foster. She worked as a domestic servant in the Foster household, a role that, while perhaps less physically grueling than field labor, placed her under the constant and intimate scrutiny of her enslavers, subject to their whims and punishment. In 1730, tragedy struck the Foster household. Sarah Bassett was accused of attempting to poison her enslavers, along with their enslaved black overseer, Tom Foster. The method of the alleged poisoning, however, is what fueled the legend. It was claimed that Sarah Bassett did not use a simple physical poison. Instead, she was accused of using obeah, an Afro-Caribbean spiritual system of folk magic, sorcery, and religious practice brought to the Caribbean by enslaved Africans. The court records state that she was found guilty of giving poisons to her granddaughter Beck and another enslaved woman, Sabby, to administer to the victims. The lore that grew from this event is far more vivid. It is said that Sarah Bassett possessed powerful magical spells. Her method was supernatural. She allegedly took a concoction and poured it at the base of a tree, casting a spell that would cause the victims to sicken and die. Witnesses testified that she was seen talking to the concoction, commanding it to go and do my bidding. The Fosters and Tom Foster did indeed fall gravely ill, though they ultimately survived. To the white colonial authorities, this was not just attempted murder, it was witchcraft. In their eyes, Sarah Bassett was a witch who had used dark magical powers to rebel against her masters. For the enslaved African community, her actions likely represented a form of spiritual resistance, using the ancestral knowledge and power they had brought with them across the Atlantic. A brutal execution and a posthumous pardon. The colonial court showed no mercy. Sarah Bassett was found guilty of felonious poisoning and sentenced to death. But her punishment was designed to be a brutal spectacle, a warning to any other enslaved person who dared to rebel. On June 1st, 1730, Sarah Bassett was burned alive at the stake in Bermuda. Public executions were meant to terrorize the enslaved population into submission, and her death by fire was particularly horrific, reserved for crimes seen as the most heinous, including witchcraft and poisoning. For nearly 3 centuries, Sarah Bassett was officially remembered as a convicted criminal. However, in 2008, in a powerful act of historical reckoning, the Bermudian government formally issued a posthumous pardon to Sarah Bassett. This pardon was a symbolic but significant acknowledgement of the grotesque injustice she suffered and a recognition that her crime was an act of defiance against the brutal system of slavery. The statue and her enduring legacy. The history of Sarah Bassett did not die with her. She became a folk hero, a symbol of resistance and the unbreakable spirit of enslaved Africans. Her legend grew, with many Bermuda believing that her ghost, or the ghost of old Sally Bassett, still haunts the island. A common Bermudian saying on a particularly hot day is, "Must be Sally Bassett's weather," a chilling reference to the heat of her execution. To solidify her place in the national consciousness, a bronze statue of Sarah Bassett was commissioned. This powerful artwork, titled "When Voices Are Heard," was created by Bermudian sculptor Carlos W. Dowling and unveiled in 2009. It stands in the heart of Hamilton, Bermuda, directly in front of the Cabinet Building, a constant reminder to those in power of the price of injustice and the strength of the human spirit. The statue does not depict a witch, but a resilient, dignified woman, her head held high despite the chains on her wrist. It transforms the colonial narrative of a dangerous sorceress into a modern tribute to a freedom fighter. Sarah Bassett's story is more than a historical footnote. It is a testament to the fact that resistance comes in many forms, sometimes with a weapon, sometimes with a spell, but always with an indomitable will. From the fire of her execution, a symbol of enduring strength was forged, forever remembered in bronze and in the soul of Bermuda. Another powerful black witch. Ain't nothing wrong with being no witch. It's unfortunate that they sacrificed her, in other words, to terrorize, to place fear in other indentured servants' minds and ingrain it, and then later on say, "We pardon you." Justice for all of the black witches that have been slain throughout the history of the earthly realm. So be it. The rocks, stones, crystals, and bones, and all of the asteroids. 9. And remember that Root Dr. Davis gets to the root cause at the crossroads. Until next time, happy Ancestral Heritage Month.